Today we have gathered for discussing a very important topics related to life larger than medicine, wellness for doctors. And today's it is the fifth edition in the series. We already covered four editions, and every month we are covering this. So the first edition was related to importance of diet and exercise that we covered. Uh, the second part was related to pursuit of happiness. The third was related to lateral thinking and financial well-being. The fourth was brain and body, an approach for patient for every medical specialty. And today we are going to discuss two important aspects, that is how to boost psychological immunity and time management. And this is the panel members. So we have Dr. Arvinda Mukherjee and Dr. Sudhisha as a course director. Dr. Hansal Bachaj will be talking on how to boost psychological immunity, and Dr. Sujay Subramanian will discuss on time management reimaging. So first, I'll introduce Dr. Sudesha. He does not require an introduction. He's one of the esteemed senior neurologist. He's a professor and HOD at NHL MMC SVPIMRS Hospital. He's a director of neurosciences Sterling Group of Hospital, consultant neurologist to His Excellency the Governor of Gujarat. He's a past executive committee member of IAN, and he's advisor of World Yoga Foundation. He has authored 6 books related to neurology and various patient education, and also published several papers in state, national, and international journals. He is conferred with the most prestigious Padma Shri in 2016 and VC Roy National Award in 2018. He was awarded Fellowship of the Indian Academy of Neurology, FIN, and also recipient of UNO Global Award, Global Visionary Award. He is interviewed by BBC, Discovery, CNBC, and other international and national TV channels for his famous research on prolonged fasting. So he's a philosopher, he's a guide, he's a teacher, he's a scientist, researcher, and all-in-all a holistic, great human being, I can say. And we all benefited from it because this program was conceptualized by Dr. Sudesha. And second course director is Dr. Arvinda Mukherjee. He is a professor of neurology at Vivekananda Institute of Medical Science, Calcutta. He is graduate medicine in 1974 from University of Calcutta with gold medal in medicine, and obtained MD medicine in 78 and MD neuro in 84. He is trained in electrophysiology in Newcastle upon Tyne and NHS Foundation Trust, UK. He has more than 30 papers in national international journal and contributed to 12 chapters in books and delivered guest lecture, oration, CME talks in national international forum. He is a editor-in-chief of IAN textbook, past president of Indian Association of Neurology and in West Bengal chapter, and Association of Neuroscientists of Eastern India. He is a past president of IAN. And we request Dr. Arvinda Mukherjee to take up the proceeding from here and do the honors, sir.
Hi, good afternoon, colleagues. I think myself very fortunate to be involved in this very interesting series of talks. And thanks, Professor Shah, who is a very close friend and almost my mentor, and the Chintan and the Torrent Group for taking up this. So, we are passing through a very difficult time, and this COVID for the last more than 10 months. And we as physicians, we are always stressed, but we are passing through a very unusual stress at this time. And I can tell you that there is a burnt out in the physicians is to the, particularly the discipline of neurologist is to the extent of 70%. So I think today's talk is definitely going to help us, our physicians, for our well-being and how to tide over this crisis period during this COVID-19 infection. So the first speaker today is Dr. Bachaj. He is Dr. Hansal Bachaj, and he will be talking on a subject which is not very familiar to us as neurologists, Though it is the term is coined way back, but we are not quite familiar. The term of psychogenic immunity. We all talk about physiological immunity, and especially in these days, we are debating whether T cell immunity or B cell immunity or immunoglobulins, which are most important for treatment of this pandemic. And we also consider various immune mechanisms, but we seldom think of the psychogenic immunity. And I will just quote the WHO definition of health, where it says that health is not only absence of disease, but it is a complete sense of social, mental, and physical well-being. So we are quite conversant with the physical well-being, but we give little attention to our mental well-being, which I think is one of the major factors for our quality of life and our performance in the academic and as well as familiar life. So I looked upon what we mean by psychogenic immunity, and in one of the definition, I found that psychogenic immune system is defined as an integral system of cognitive, motivational, and behavioral personality dimensions that should give immunity against stress, some calamities, or certain negative thoughts in our mind. So I am really very, very happy that today we are discussing on this important aspect of psychogenic immunity. And I'm very happy to introduce Dr. Hans Vaches, who is a renowned psychiatrist and author in Western India. He is head department of psychiatry, HSC Medisearch Hospital, Ahmedabad. He has got 2 clinics. He has got many achievements. He is MD psychiatry with university first position. He's member mental health authority, government of Gujarat. He's, as I can see, that he's a prolific writer and a social activist. And his column writer, like the relationship between male and female, his interactive websites, these are very popular and have got many viewers. He has written 15 books. His radioed at serial on the drug addiction is also very well taken and very informative. Delivered 700 plus lectures in international, national, journal, state level, and non-medical conferences. We are very happy, Dr. Vachesh, to have you within us in the neurological fraternity, and we'll be definitely will be enlightened, and we'll be feeling much better at the end of the talk. Dr. Vachesh, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mukherjee, for your kind words. Good morning, friends. Today we are going to discuss about one of the very important and very less discussed topic as far as our medical fraternity is concerned. And the topic is how to boost your psychological immunity. See, all of us knows that, COVID is a kind of a health challenge we faced in 2020. And, most of the time there are number of the fears were remained associated with the COVID. And one of the biggest fear regarding the COVID was, staying alone or staying in isolation. I have come across many patients who have been suffered from the COVID and who are suffering from the COVID, and there one of the major concerns is staying alone or staying with the self. See, most of the people who are staying alone, they are not comfortable staying with themselves, because staying with the self stimulates a lot of negative thinking, lot of regrets, lot of guilt, lot of self-doubt and self-analysis, and ultimately people feel more anxious and more worried while staying alone. And that is one of the biggest fear of getting admitted into the COVID center, or even sent to the home isolation. Very few people must have felt calm and positive staying alone. So what is there which can keep them calm and positive? I'll try to share some knowledge about those factors which keep them cool and calm. Today, first of all, I'm going to share two important facts with you. The first important fact is we humans are on this earth since last 6 million years, and it's a journey from hominids to Homo sapiens. And during this tenure of 6 million years, we have seen lot many species got extincted, and they have been disappeared from the earth. But we are the people who are still there, and probably we will be there for many more years to come. We will survive. We have survived this 6 million years, and even this COVID-19 also we would be able to survive. So at this point, I have a question in my mind that why are we surviving? Why we have not got extincted like dinosaur? Because we also had many challenges in the past, many disease outbreaks in the past, many wars has been fought, but still we are surviving. If somebody would tell me that allopathy is helping us to survive, then let me tell you that allopathy is only 210 years old science. So I don't think that in comparison to 6 million years, you can give a kind of a credit to the allopathy for a survival. Same way Ayurveda, somebody would definitely tell about the Ayurveda that because of Ayurveda we are surviving. That is also not very true, because Ayurveda is only a 5,000 old science. And most of the health related science or health related knowledge and other thing has occurred during this somewhere from the origin of Ayurveda till today. But that is only a small portion, but larger portion we have survived without any this kind of pathies. So that is the one of the biggest question. And second important fact is we are capable to survive on our own. This is also a very important fact that we have to accept, that we have a capacity to survive on our own. And for that we need to thank our immunity, because we have a kind of a healing power, or a kind of a internal healing system which supports us for a survival. And that is why probably we have not got extincted even after this many adverse situation. See, up till now, as Dr. Mukherjee told us, that we were always talking about the immunity in terms of physiology, because most of the time people would think that immunity means physiological, or immunity has only a physical component. But because of the COVID, we have started, the immunity has come into the news. Otherwise, we were very less talking about the immunity on a medical platform. But because of COVID, now everybody has started talking about the immunity. And in that immunity, the one major component has been added or has been brought into the light is a psychological immunity. As I told you, that the person who is fighting a COVID, or the person who is in isolation with the COVID, there is some role of psychological factors which is playing a kind of a role where people recover faster, and where it is not there, then the people were prolonging their illness, and that is the role of psychological immunity. So now we are ready to understand that the immunity has two components: a physical component or a physiological component, and a psychological component. Obviously, there we do lot many things to improve the physiological immunity, and nowadays everything is from the Ayurveda, ashwagandha and chavanprash and haldi and honey and tulsi and lot many immunoboosters have come into the market, or even vitamin C, zinc, and lot many vitamin D, lot many other things we people are taking for a physiological immunity. But we hardly have thought about the psychological immunity, and that is why today, we are into the discussion about doing about the psychological immunity. See, all of us knows that in any disease, not only the body fights, mind also fights. Because any disease is being fought by the two things, your body and your mind. And as we know that now the mind is not limited to your brain. Mind is in each and every cell. So every cell has their own intelligence, and that intelligence is a mind. So we know that in any disease, we fight through the body as well as the mind. But most important thing is mind decides the outcome. This is very important, that when we fight any disease, our body and mind fights together, but mind decides the outcome. Those who are able to deal the illness effectively at the mental level or at the mind level. Again, I am clarifying that when I am using term mental, that does not related to only brain. It is to the each and every cell of our body. So on a mental platform, if we can defend well, then probably the outcome of the illness is good to us. And this is more true with the chronic illnesses. So that is basically a concept of the psychology. If I have to define you a psychological immunity, then we can say that your brain and physical immune system are in constant communication with each other, and this communication is intrinsically linked with your stress levels. So as your stress level goes up and down, this communication get affected, and the whole immune system can get affected. So with a view of this, the definition of psychological immunity is an integrated system of motivational, behavioral, personality dimension that should provide an immunity. So psychological immunity is basically related to your motivational and behavioral personality dimensions, which affect your immunity. So this psychological immune system protects the body from the toxins which is being generated from the constant worry, constant tension, anxiety, and those toxins which is being generated by this negative psychological impact, which is being defended by the psychological immunity. So in short, if I have to tell you about the psychological immunity, then it is your capacity to adapt and bounce back. This is only a one-line simple definition of psychological immunity, that it is your capacity to adapt and bounce back or fight back. If you are not able to fight back, or if your capacity or if your immune psychological immunity is low, then definitely your recovery from any disease would be prolonged, and sometimes even people succumb to those illnesses because of a psychological incapacity or inability to bounce back. There are incidences of suicide, drug addictions, crimes, divorces. All these are basically because of lack of your capacity to bounce back or a low psychological immunity. Now coming to today's topic, because I just try to make you explain that what is the psychological immunity. Now we have understood that what is the psychological immunity. Now the question is how to boost our own psychological immunity. There are four basic characteristics which suggest that the person would have a better psychological immunity than rest of the else when they have this four basic characteristics. Number one is relationship and support system. Those people, see, man is basically a social animal. We need to relate, we need a relationship, and that's why probably the patients, people are fighting against the lockdowns. They want to see the people, they want to meet the people, they want to do a party, they just need to connect. So relationship, uh, those people who have a good relationship in their life, they definitely have a better psychological immunity. Those who have a good support system, family support or a social support, or you can say environmental support, all these kind of support system, if there is a strong support system with anybody, then definitely he will have a good psychological immunity. Second important factor where the psychological immunity would be good for the person is capacity to step back. See, whenever you are in a stress, whenever you are facing an adverse situation, or whenever things are not under your control, then it is your capacity to step back and have a patience would give you a good psychological immunity. So this is a second characteristic of people who have a good psychological immunity, that capacity to step back or have a patience during the adverse situation. The third important characteristic is positive view of self. Those people who have a positive view of their own self have a better psychological immunity. There are people who constantly think negative about themselves, or who constantly consider themselves as a weak, physically weak or a mentally weak, and those are the people who doesn't have a good kind of psychological immunity. And fourth one, which I'll discuss in detail later on also, that is a mental digestion. Ayurveda says that everything depends upon the digestion, but that is a physiological digestion, what Ayurveda is talking. But at the same time, there is a word called mental digestion. You need to digest the reality, you need to digest the situation around you, you need to digest so many things in the life, other people's view, other people's thought, other people's attitude, your own attitude. There are multiple things which you need to digest at the mental level. Those who have a better mental digestion, those who can easily digest all this stuff, they have a better psychological immunity. So for a good psychological immunity, there are four basic characteristics which I described: that relationship and support system, capacity to step back, a positive view of your own self, and mental digestion. So let's talk about how to boost. The four characteristics were a basic characteristics. If somebody is lacking those characteristics, or if somebody is low on those characteristics, then how they can boost their psychological immunity, or how they can boost themselves? The first important thing is to connect. As I told you, that we need a connection, and not only the human connection. I'm not talking about only human connection. We need to connect to the surroundings also. You need to connect to the animals. You need to connect to the trees and greeneries around you. You need to connect to the environment. See, we are the part of a larger world. We are not the one who can connect only with the human and survive. We need a connection with the everything living around us. So try to connect. If you want to boost your psychological immunity, try to connect through the actual act. Go and meet the people, have a relationship with the animals surrounding you, or just connect to your garden trees, or the greeneries around you. Try to connect. If you I'll give you a simple suggestion. Just try to meditate under the tree, and try to connect that particular tree, that whatever you are inhaling is coming from that tree, and whatever you are exhaling is going to that tree. And if with that concept, just try to meditate for 10 minutes below the tree, it will make a lot of difference at the mental level. You hug a tree. Just if you have a big tree in your compound, just go and hug and stay there for 10 minutes or 5 minutes for while hugging the tree. It will definitely boost your psychological immunity. It will definitely make up your mindset. You would get relaxed, and lot many changes would occur over a period of time. It's a basically it's a matter of practice. I'm putting it in the words. It may not be appreciated that way, but if you start doing it, you would see the difference. So to connect and to take care, we need to take care of others. While you are taking care of others, you are boosting your psychological immunity. You are stimulating your psychological immunity, and you are better at it. So that is the first thing which you need to do if you want to boost your psychological immunity. The second important thing is accept the change. See, there are the people who would resist the change, and those who are resisting the change, they are ultimately damaging their psychological immunity. If you can accept the change, if you can adapt the change and try to transform yourself, or you try to change yourself or adapt yourself, then definitely your psychological immunity is going to go up. For that matter, I love that Serenity prayer. You must have heard about the Serenity prayer. Serenity prayer says that God give me a courage to change the things which I can. The second line is more important. Give me a strength to accept the change which I cannot. And the final line is most important, the wisdom to know the difference. See, that is most important, because most of the people doesn't know that what are the things which you can change and what are the things which you cannot change. So you should have a wisdom, and the things which you cannot change, you accept them and you try to adapt to that change, and that will help you. Uh, the third important thing is have a purpose. The people who have a purpose in their life, they have a better psychological immunity, or even if you start developing a purpose, your psychological immunity would start going up. You must have heard about the blue zones. The blue zones are the areas on this earth where most centenarians are living, and healthy centenarians are living. Okinawa is one of the area in Japan, where most of the centenarians are living. And you if you know the secret of their longevity, the secret of their longevity is a purpose. Most of the old people there, most of the centenarians are active there. There are lot many musical band there where the people above 80 are performing the musical orchestra. So such kind of thing, and from there the concept of ikigai has raised. Most of the researchers, when they started studying their life, then they found out that these Okinawa people have two things very importantly embedded in their life, and that is, number one is ikigai. Ikigai is having a purpose, and the second one was moai. Moai means to connect to the community. So people who have a purpose, they boost their psychological immunity. So have a purpose. If you already have, the passionately follow that. If you don't have, or if you have never thought about it still, then just go in meditation, go in isolation, and try to find out that what is the purpose of your existence, what is the purpose of your life, and what is the purpose of living years. Then if you have a clear cut purpose, definitely your psychological immunity will be very high. The another one factor which can boost your psychological immunity is be decisive. If you have a firm decision about certain things, about moving forward, about the purpose, then definitely it will give you a better psychological immunity. For this, being a decisive or having a purpose together, if we put, then it is a sankalpa. The people who have a tougher sankalp, people who have a strong sankalp in their life, they have a better psychological immunity. So try to make a sankalp, try to make a kind of a resolution where you can stick to it for the betterment of your life, betterment of your spirit, and aim for a spiritual growth. Then definitely it would act as a psychological immunity booster. The another important thing is look for an opportunity. There are people who get blocked when certain things comes into the life, but there are people who see opportunity in every difficult situation. So people who just think about the alternatives, they think about the opportunities, they usually keep their psychological immunity up. So if you develop a kind of a mindset where you look opportunity in every setbacks or in every difficult situation, then probably you are optimistic. And when you become optimistic, that definitely improves your psychological immunity, because optimistic people have a better psychological fighting capacity or mental fighting capacity. The another thing I already told you about, while I was describing a characteristic, it is one of the characteristic of people who have a good psychological immunity, but this can be even developed also. So if you don't have a positive view of yourself, gradually you can develop this ability. So when you have a positive view of yourself, when you consider that if you start believing that I have a good immunity, that itself is helping you. So there are people I have seen that they will tell you that if I get into the rain, then I'll have a common cold immediately. And these are the people who would catch the cold immediately in the first rain, because they believe so. But those who believe that no, my immunity is strong, and I have generally I have a good fighting capacity as far as the immune system is concerned, then they are really having a good immunity. So just being positive about the immunity, just being positive about yourself, just being positive about your capacity, that definitely boosts your psychological immunity. So you have to develop a kind of a concept that I am me. I am me, nothing less, nothing more, and that's enough. So I'm enough. If you have that concept of enoughness from within, then probably you are enough, and your psychological immunity would be much stronger. Another important factor which makes your psychological immunity stronger is keep things in the perspective. See, when you keep things into the perspective, then definitely a kind of a clarity comes to your thought, and kind of a stability comes to your emotion. So when your thoughts are clear and your emotions are stable, you are at your strongest. So that is what we need to do to boost our psychological immunity. Of course, staying positive is another thing, another mental state. People are in a different kind of mental state, but those who are in a positive mental state, or those who are staying positive, or those who try to stay positive in each and every situation, definitely their psychological immunity will be boosted. People see, being positive, let me clarify one thing, that being positive does not mean that being unrealistic. When we talk about staying positive, people would start making a unrealistic commitment or unrealistic goal setting and all those things. It's not staying positive. It is neither a half glass full, neither a half glass empty. It is half glass full and half glass empty. You see the realistic approach, not the optimistic one, not the pessimistic one, the realistic approach. The glass is not half full, the glass is not half empty, the glass is half full and half empty. So when you are realistically positive, then definitely it will improve your psychological immunity. Another important and probably one of the final recommendation to have a psychological immunity, and that is connecting to the core. You need to connect to the core. You need to identify the one who is residing in the body, the one who is connecting with the others. So I'm talking about your spirit, or whatever you see, the seer within you, the one who lives within your body. If you connect to that core, if you connect to that core, to the cosmos, and if you keep on strengthening that connection day by day by doing a lot of spiritual practices and other things, definitely it will give you a strong psychological immunity. So let me come to the conclusion that uh, the psychological immunity is nothing but it is your capacity to adapt and bounce back. It is your capacity to fight back. There are few people, those who are inherently uh, 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 they are fighter, and they have a good characteristic for better psychological immunity. But immunity, as I told you, that it can be always developed, as we are developing physiological immunity through various immunoboosters. Today I have discussed few psychological immunoboosters with you. If you practice, or if you follow this particular thing, then I think probably your capacity to fight back or bounce back would be much stronger than what it used to be. Thank you so much, Torrent, and thank you so much, the organizer, for giving me a chance to express my thinking about the psychological immunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Hansal. Excellent lecture, and we really uh, gather a good amount of knowledge how to keep ourselves steady and stress-free and increase our psychological immunity by your boost. Thank you so much. We'll take the questions later. I hope there will be many questions. So I now hand over to my friend Dr. Sudhi Shah to take on the proceedings.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. And indeed, it was a wonderful talk from Dr. Ansal Bachej. He's a much sought after psychiatrist, and is well known for his inspiring talks and his write-ups all across Gujarat and India. Well, the tips that he has given are lifetime tips, and Corona is just a facilitator that we have got him at a very short notice, and I must thank him enough. Now I'm going to introduce the next subject, and then I will introduce the next speaker. The next subject is equally important, and that is time management. In the current times, whether it is corona or no corona, we are always stressed out with the time management. More so as a doctor, particularly because we have to ride on so many horses at the time. Some of us are in the teaching, some of doing a lot of academics, some of us are doing a lot of lectures and arranging conferences, administration, heads of departments, and then some of us are examiners, and a lot of things. Apart from being, part of the family, we have to discharge our duties to our parents, our children, our spouse, etc. So time management becomes a very important aspect of our life schedule. And at the top of it, we have a lot of difficult patients, and we have other issues of staff management, and all of us want to top in our career and have a lot of fame and wealth and money, etc. So in those difficult times, I think time management becomes the key of the thing. Now, I would like to share an anecdote, and that will give some time for for you all to catch up with the next talk also. That is when I was with Professor Marsden at Queen's College doing a short fellowship at movement disorders. I had a chance to work with Professor Marsden, and what a genius he was. And when I was with him, I think he was around 58 years old, and he was considered father of movement disorders. There are a lot of monograms to his credit, and all the world all over was following what he wrote. So I had a chance to interact with him on the day of my uh, finishing of my fellowship, and he was kind enough me to take on a drive with to his home, and he offered me a cup of coffee. During the conversation in the car and at his home, I had asked a typical question, sir. I wouldn't understand that at this sort of age, how that you have been master of so many subjects and a lot of accolades and how much material that you have created, the creativity. How could you do all these things? And he smiled at me. And after my long persuasion, I mean, I just cut the story short. Now, what he gave me were some important mantras, you can say. He said, respect the time, time will respect. So be very careful. Time is very slippery and don't take it very lightly. Be very careful in planning your morning, your evening, your day, your week, your month, and your year ahead of time. That is what he said. And try to follow, but don't have stress on that. And just make a schedule that you can follow. Second thing, he said that do only those things that you only can do or you do the best. Let's break it down. He said, suppose you are doing your consultation, and if you can hire one or two people with you who can do good history taking and blood pressure and all those routine things and keep the case paper ready in front of you, try to do that. By the end of day, you will end up paying some money to your colleagues or assistants, but you will be able to see 3, 4, 5 patients more, and you will do quality work. He said that when I came to London, it was impossible for a news guy to have a driver, but I did hire a driver from day one. And the drive from my home to Queen's Park was so easy that I was sitting in the cars at the back and scribbling down so many things. And whatever material you are saying, partly it is because of the concepts that I generated by spending 40 plus 48 minutes every day. And I actually followed everything he said in my life as far as possible. Then the third thing he said, okay, but also you should not forget that if you are enjoying driving, then you drive yourself. Because those things you enjoy, you should do. Otherwise, leave it to others, delegate your work. And the last most important tip he gave was decide on whom to meet, why to meet, and where to meet, and how for how long to meet. This is a very, very golden advice for all those young people who are starting their career. I think you take this. See, we are invaded by a lot of people around us. They keep on coming to us at any time, any moment, and they take away a lot of our time. And sometimes you don't have control of people. So best thing is you decide why you are meeting somebody, whom you are meeting, why you are meeting, jot down your points, and have a specific discussion. Rather than you calling somebody at home, better you go to them and discuss, because then you have a key in your hand when to leave, because otherwise you will have to depend on the mercy of people come at your place and they will decide when to leave and for how long to wait. So, friends, these are some important tips, and I thought it would be very useful to you, particularly the young guys, young generation people, and therefore I took time to share with you. And I think it would help our friend Dr. Sujay to build up further on that. I'm sure he is much, much, much more qualified to talk on this subject. He is a psychiatrist from Chennai. He has over 30 years experience as a clinician. He is currently the chief psychiatrist and heads Asiana Psychiatric Care Hospital in Chennai. Hardworking as he is clinically and also very keen academically, he he enjoys debates and storytelling. He did his MBBS from Ramaiah Medical College, Bangalore, and MD in Psychiatry from the Arm Medical College, Pune. So I'm sure he will give his wonderful views. I think I know him. He also loves ancient wisdom, right from Chanakya to Vedas and Upanishad. So his perspective on time management will not be the same as we are taught by this management guru, but he will bring the real crux, the elixir, the nectar of time management as defined by our ancient sages. Thank you very much. And I'm told that he's a coffee lover, so maybe one day I will have coffee with him in Chennai. Though I don't take a lot of coffees, but once in a while, when I'm in blue mood, I take coffee. So I will have that pleasure with you. Once again, I want to thank my friend Dr. Ansal, and it's all now for Sujay Subramanian to take over further time management. And Dr. Subramanian, there is no restriction of time. You can go ahead with 20, 25 minutes, whatever. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So these are his learning objectives. I'm sure he would mention that it better. That philosophers have always wondered how we could use our time to make our life meaningful, and this is what time management should be all about. So not by the stereotype time management experts of today. I think he will get us out from their tips and tricks, and we'll look at the time management from a philosophical perspective, as I said. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Respected chairpersons, esteemed doctors, hi, good afternoon, season's greetings. My name is Dr. Sujay Subramanian. I'm a psychiatrist practicing in Chennai. And I'm going to speak a little bit about time management. And in fact, I'm not sure I'll be able to, do justice like what Dr. Shah expects me to do. But I'll give it a shot. So I'm going to talk about time management reimagined, and not the time management that we have all been seeing all over the place. If I were to ask somebody what is time management, almost all of us know what it is. It is to get whatever job we want to do done in the shortest possible period of time in the most efficient way. We all know that. But if I were to ask all of you, do you think you can manage your time a little better? I'm sure everybody will say, yes, I know I can manage my time a little better. I wasted here, I wasted there. So I can manage my time better, which is why then we start going and asking for tips and tricks on how to do it. And most of them are quite useful. But I want to go a little beyond that. I want to look at time management from a philosophical perspective to see how time can be used in a manner that will enrich you, which will enrich your soul, which will make your life more meaningful. But I also know that time management's got a very, very practical aspect to it. I mean, in a country like India, where a majority of the people are struggling to make ends meet, you can't go and tell them, listen, I want you to look at time management from a philosophical perspective. He's trying to say, oh, no, I'm trying to get food on the table. So I understand there is a practical aspect to the whole thing, but I don't think anybody here is having a problem like that. And once you overcome the practical aspect, I want everyone to look at the philosophical aspect of what time management is. But you cannot completely divorce the practical from the philosophical. So there are certain things that we need to know first. I'm going to just get that out of the way. The first problem that we're going to look at is because of this guy called Parkinson. So Parkinson's law is an old adage which says that work expands to fill the time allotted. Parkinson was a naval historian and a British author. And in an article in The Economist in 1955, he was actually complaining about the British bureaucracy when he said that, no matter how much time these guys have, they will take that much time to do whatever work is given to them. He was actually complaining, but he did not think that it would become a law that will apply to everybody. It will apply to everybody, including you and me. We all do that. If we have some work to do, and we are given 5 days to do it, we will take 5 days to do that work. The same work, if you're given 10 days, we will take 10 days to do the work. That is the law, and that will happen to everybody. Why am I bringing this up? Because It is important to know this. Once you know that this law exists, you know that you're going to be taking that much time. You don't have to stop doing other things. So once you arrive at, okay, I've got this work, I've got 5 days, I'm going to take 5 days to do this. That doesn't mean that I stop doing everything else that I'm doing. I will do that also. So it's important to know about Parkinson's law, so that you don't stop everything else from going on. The corollary to that is, they say, if you can wait till the last minute, it will take you only 1 minute to do it. But that of course doesn't work all the time. Of course, he went on to write a very famous book as well. The next thing I want to talk about is something called the Pareto Principle. I want to get these couple of things out of the way first, and then we'll talk about the philosophical approach. Pareto was actually an economist, and he came up with this principle in the 1980s, which is called the 80-20 principle. So this happened when he was taking a walk in his garden, and he was looking at it's a PEAP. I mean, so and he was looking at all the peas that's growing in the garden, and suddenly realized that 80% of the peas came from 20% of the pods. And then suddenly he came up with this 80-20 principle, not realizing that this would apply to just about everything in life. You can apply that everywhere. If you see 80% of the trouble in the world is caused by 20% of the people. Or like the example that I've given is a fundraising drive. We say 80% of the funds is donated by 20% of the people. Why is it important to know this in time management? Because when you've got some work to do, you'll realize that 20% of the work will give you 80% of the results. So if at some point of time you're able to identify this 20%, it's going to really help you manage your time better. So these are couple of practical. There are a whole lot of practical tips that I could come up with. I mean, it's just there for us to take. But these two are basic principles that we need to know, and we need to apply that every time we do. But of course, I know this is not an approach anything beyond practical. It's not a philosophical approach. I do understand that. So I'm going to talk about the next one, which is the I have no time myth. So whenever somebody tells you I have no time, the one thing that we know is that person is lying. So let's say now you have a colleague who is a very hardworking doctor. He gets up at 6:30 in the morning and he goes to work at 7:30, quickly gets ready, goes to 7:30 in the morning, and he works till late evening, comes back, spends time with his family. And supposing if I were to tell this guy, hey, listen, why don't you come cycling with me for half an hour in the morning? And he says, I have no time. Is he lying? Yes, he is. He is lying, because you always have time. The point is that coming cycling with me is not a priority for him. It's a priority for him to sleep till 6:30. It's a priority for him to get ready, and it's a priority for him to go to work. But if he wanted to come cycling with me, he will be able to maybe get up half an hour earlier, or squeeze in the work that he does from 6:30 to 7:30 to half an hour, and then do this. So every time somebody says, I have no time, it is a lie. It is not that he does not have time. It is just that whatever that is not a priority. When people say, I did not vote because I have no time, it's a lie. Voting at that time is not a priority. So many ills in this world, so many things that we don't do, and we convince ourselves that we have no time. It is always a lie. It is that whatever you say you have no time for is not a priority for you. You're going to work, and then your son says, okay, would you be able to spend some time with me? No, I have no time. A lie. It is not a priority for you to spend time with your son at that time. It's a priority for you to do whatever else you're doing. You're going out, your father, elderly person says, I want to talk to you about something. I'm sorry, I have no time. Dad, I'll talk to you later. A lie again. I have time, but talking to you is not a priority. This is something that we have got to understand. Every time you say I have no time and you think that you can get away with it, and we convince ourselves that we have no time, it is a lie. Make sure that you prioritize what you want to do. So these are a couple of things. But before we go ahead, I want to understand, we need to look at what time is. I mean, it seems on the surface, it seems simple enough. I mean, there is a definition for time. We know what time is. If I ask you what's the time, the time is about 1 o'clock now, and it is the 27th of December. I know all that, but is that what time is? So Saint Augustine, or Augustine of Hippo, I mean, a philosopher, a saint, a writer, author. So he was once famously asked, what is time? And he pondered for a long time, and he said, oh my God, this is so sad, because I don't even know that I don't know what time is. And I can tell you, St. Augustine is not alone. There are several explanations of what time is. For example, there is a scientific explanation which says that time started with the Big Bang, when before that, matter and everything that we know was concentrated into a small, tiny dot. And with the Big Bang, it started expanding, and time and space started, and it's been expanding ever since. It happened 13.7 billion years ago. And this will go on till there is this big collapse, when it'll all come back and it'll become a small tiny dot again, which will be the end of time. So this is a scientific explanation. But the concept of time is self-evident. We know that. We know there are a certain number of minutes in an hour, there are a certain number of hours in a day, certain number of days in a week, a number of weeks in a year. We know all that. But do we know fundamentally what time is? We know time is passing non-stop. We can follow it with clocks and calendars and guess it's 1 o'clock now, and it's the date is the month of December. We know all that. But can we study it? Can we experiment with it like how we do scientifically? We can't, but it still keeps passing. In 147 BC, that's when Hipparchus, he proposed dividing the day into 24 hours, which was based on the equinox, when he said you had exactly 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night. And he said this would be an easy way to do that. And so, you started dividing every day, whether it's equinox or not, into 24 hours. And all great civilizations use the stars and sun to tell what the time is, roughly to tell what time is. Any decent astronomer could look at the time and tell you to almost within 15 minutes. And almost everybody could look at the sky and tell you roughly what the time was. I suppose if we didn't have a watch, we also would have probably been able to do that. And if you look at it from a religious perspective, so if you look at, let's say, Judeo-Christian or Islamic religious perspective of time, there is a linear concept of time there. So time started when God created, heaven and earth and every other heavenly body, and then time will in a linear fashion continue till some kind of an Armageddon or an apocalypse will take place, and at which time will cease to end. But a Hindu perspective is that time is cyclical in nature. That's why there is belief in rebirth and reincarnation. And we think of time as a cycle, a yuga cycle, a cycle consisting of four yugas, which is, we are currently in Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga lasts for about 430,000 years. So I'm going to first talk about Satya Yuga. Satya Yuga is actually 4 times the time of Kali Yuga. That's 4.3 lakh into 4, which is 1.7 million years. And this actually is a time when everybody is righteous. 100% of people are righteous. People live to be 100,000 years, and there is no crime or anything taking part in the world. And so after 1.7 years, you slip into Treta Yuga. Treta Yuga means 3. It's probably because there were 3 avatars of Vishnu which came in during this time. Lord Rama's is said to have appeared during this time. And during this time, you have 25% of the people not being righteous and 75% being righteous. So we have some problems, but still not too many problems. And then this Treta Yuga is followed by Dwapara Yuga. Dwapara is, it means half. So basically because half the time has passed, and also probably because half the people are righteous and half the people were not. But by this time, we had a lot of crimes and wars, and this was the time of the Mahabharata, and Lord Krishna was there during this time. And at the end of Mahabharata, and end of the Lord Krishna's time, the Kali Yuga started. This is supposed to have happened during around 3000 BC. And so we are currently into 5,000 years of Kali Yuga, but Kali Yuga is 430,000 odd years. So that means we have 425,000 years left. And in the Kali Yuga, you have 75% of the people not being righteous. So you have teachers and holy people being treated badly, looked down upon. You have thieves and charlatans and cheats ruling, and you have people using threats and avarice and cunning to rule people instead of using kindness and justice. It sounds familiar, right? I mean, so all of this will last, and the sad thing is it's going to go on for another 425,000 years. After which, so all of this together forms one Chatur Yuga or one Mahayuga, which is 4.3 million years, or about 10 times what the Kali Yuga is. And 1,000 of this forms one Kalpa, which is actually one day in the life of Brahma. So you have one Kalpa, which is followed by one night in the life of Brahma, which is another 4.3 billion years, when there are no cycles taking place. And then after that, this whole thing takes, the whole thing repeats again. Just to get an understanding of what time is. But if you were to ask the ancient Greeks to define time, they would have probably asked you, what aspect of time are you talking about? Because there are three aspects of time. One was aeon, and they're all Greek gods actually. Aeon was the entire concept of time, like how time began, all the time that is spent, and how time's going to end, the entire concept of time. So we'll leave that aside and we'll talk about the other two things, which is chronos and kairos, two extremely important concepts of time that the Greek had, which we all should be looking at. So one, chronos is the chronological passage of time. You have morning followed by afternoon followed by evening. We know that that's the chronological passage of time, and that happens every day, one day followed by the next day. But the other one, kairos, is called the ever-present now, or the opportune movement. When you look for the moments that will give you happiness, give you satisfaction, give you peace. So an example would be, let's say now I'm going to work in the morning, and then as I'm stepping out, my little daughter comes and tells me, listen, can I spend 5 minutes with you? Now this is a kairos movement. I can chronologically go to work and then continue to do what I'm doing, or I can seize this opportunity, grab it, and experience it and enjoy the happiness. I can be coming back from work and I see my elderly father saying, listen, I want to talk to you for a while. That is a kairos moment for me. I can grab that opportunity, spend some time with him, have a meaningful talk, make both of us happy. Or I can say, no, I have no time. I just follow the chronos. So in our time stop perspective, we always forget about this abundant quality of kairos, and we need to make sure that we follow that. Even Hippocrates, who was the father of modern medicine, he said that every kairos is a chronos, but you know that every chronos is not a kairos. You got to know which one it is, and you should be able to grab it. But all of this, so again, when you talk about philosophy, when we talk about philosophy is actually a Greek word. So it's a combination of two Greek words, which is Philin and Sophia, which means lover of wisdom. And all of the initial schools, which started about 500 in 500 BC. So initially you had Plato's school and Aristotle. Plato had Academia, and Aristotle started Lyceum, and they were both schools of philosophy. So whatever you studied was philosophy. When you go and when you say I study philosophy, those days that meant every subject. It could be astronomy, it could be science, it could be architecture, it could be language, and they were all listed under philosophy. But later on, of course, they all became subjects on their own, and philosophy became a different subject. So philosophy became a subject where you would ask questions. It became a science of inquiry. You would question things. You would question the meaning of life. You would question everything around you. You would question things again and again. You might not get answers, but the whole idea of philosophy is to question, and that's supposed to make your life better. And so that has continued. And around 3rd century BC, about 200 years after the whole philosophy started, there's this school of Stoic philosophy. Of course, this is in Rome. So we had, this was started by somebody called Zeno. Zeno was a very, very wealthy merchant. And then what had happened is that in a shipwreck, he lost most of his wealth. And that made him turn to philosophy. And he started this school of philosophy. But unlike philosophers of that day, they were all big shots. You couldn't go near them. You couldn't approach them because they were really big shots. So he wanted a philosophy of personal ethics and systems of logic. And he didn't want the philosopher to be a big shot. So he said a Stoic philosopher. So he started the school of Stoicism. So he said a Stoic philosopher should have virtue and tolerance and self-control. And then he said the cardinal virtues of a Stoic should be wisdom, temperance, justice, and courage. He did not want intelligence as one of the main things, which was probably a prerequisite for any philosopher before that and probably after that. And the whole Stoic period started at 3rd century BC, about 300 BC to about 200 AD. And the last Stoic philosopher was probably Marcus Aurelius, who was also the emperor of Rome. We had great Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, but the greatest of all was probably Seneca. And Seneca was Lucius Annaeus Seneca, a great Stoic philosopher, written so many books, which are actually even practical and timeless, and they can still be used and for time management, relevant today, unbelievably relevant today. The picture I have on my right is a painting by Rubens. It's in the Prado Museum in Madrid. And it's a picture of Seneca being forced to end his life in a ritual suicide because Nero, to whom he was an advisor, thought that he was betraying him and then forced him to commit suicide. So it's a ritual suicide where a physician will cut the blood vessels in your ankles and you bleed to death, and you also take some poison for good measure. His wife joined him, and he had to end his life. But before that, he had written so many books and unleashed so much wisdom. The relationship between Seneca and Nero is, it's a story for another day, which is also absolutely, fascinating. So Seneca had all these things about. So as a child, he had asthma, and he also suffered from probably tuberculosis, and there was always a fear that he was never going to make it. And I think as a child, he really realized the value of time. And so he wrote so many books on time, and there was a book called Shortness of Life, on time and on death. And they're absolutely wonderful examples of what time management should be. There is so much material. It's not possible. I can speak for 2 hours, and then I still won't be able to exhaust all the things that he mentioned. I've just picked up a few of the things, and I'm going to bring that up so that we can get an insight into what a philosophical look into time management should be. The first thing that he had said is something called memento mori. He said, what he said is, remember that you're going to die. I mean, we all know we're going to die, but we don't. We somehow don't. We don't think about it. We don't. We don't want to accept it because it's kind of very, very uncomfortable to talk about it. But he also says that most of us are given a sufficiently long life. But what happens is that when we have the time, we don't utilize it. And then what we realize, when we run out of time, we realize that we don't have enough time. So one of the things that, one of the problems is that we don't realize that all the time that has passed does not belong to us anymore. So we say, okay, death is going to come. But all the time that's already passed, it belongs to death because we don't have it anymore. So we should understand that. Death is going to be coming, and we should realize how we should live accordingly. In fact, Marcus Aurelius said, why do you not want to die? What is it that you want to do that you don't want to die? If you would look at that question, you will realize that there are so many good things that you want to do. There is this very, very a story that one of my old teachers had told me once, and this was what he said. There was a big, rich Seiji, big rich guy, always doing big deals, running into crows. And one day, and he's got no time for anybody because he's a big guy. He's got a lot of work to do. So one day, as he had this huge deal that he wanted to do, running into several crows. And then as he was leaving the house, he opened the front door, and then he sees this man standing outside. He says, "Who are you?" And that guy says, "I am Yamaraj. I've come to take you." Hey, no, listen, I have no time. I'm a big guy. I'm rich. I've got all these things. I have no time. He said, "No, but I've come to take you." He said, "I'll give you 10 lakh rupees. Take it, and then and let me go. I've got all these things to do." He said, "No, you don't understand. Your time is up, and I'm going to take you." And he started bargaining with Yamaraj. He said, "I'll give you more money. I'll give you 1 crore. I'll give you 2 crores." Finally, he agrees. He says, "I'll give you everything I own." And Yamaraj says, "No, I've come to take you." And then he says, "Can you give me 1 minute?" So Yamaraj asked him, "What do you want the 1 minute for?" He said, "I want to spend that time with my wife and son because I have not done that all this time." So at that point of time, all the money that you have is meaningless, and time has become very valuable. So you've got to understand that you're going to die sometime, and all the time that you have, you want to use it in a very meaningful way, which will make it, which will give you proper satisfaction. Not doing things that are not going to give you satisfaction. So that's one of the things that you should think of, that you're going to be dying one of these days. The second thing is, he says, you must value your time more than your possessions. You must think of time as a commodity. Now, so he says people are very frugal in guarding their personal property, but they are extremely they're happy to squander time. So if you see somebody just walking down the road and just throwing money around, you would think something seriously wrong with that person. And if I ask you, would you do that? You'll say, "No, never. I will never throw money around because it's valuable." But you are throwing away something far more valuable. Money is something that if you lose today, you can make tomorrow. The time that you spend today, the time that you spent, you can never get it back because that is gone. The time that just because there is 24 hours tomorrow, that is not the time that you lost. That is time that you can do something else with. It is like telling somebody who just got his salary, okay, throw your salary out because next month you'll get your salary again. Will you do that? No, you will not do that. But with time, you are happy to do that. Remember that whatever time is passed, you will never get it back. This is the only resource that is non-renewable. Everything else you can make. So please treat your time as they're more valuable than money. Second thing is be ruthless to things that don't matter. The amount of time that we waste on so many things. So according to Seneca, things like even grief and joy, he says they're pointless. Don't waste your time on things that are pointless, like grief, joy, desire, social amusements. All the time that you spend reading WhatsApp or watching YouTube. Sound familiar? Make sure that you are ruthless in avoiding these things. Of course, also one of the hardest things is to say no to pointless invitation, just wasting time doing. When people say things like, "What are you doing?" You say, "I'm trying to kill time." Why would you do that? That's the most valuable resource you've got. You must use your time to enrich yourself. So the other thing is saying it's even harder to say no to several other time-consuming emotions that we have: anger, excitement, distractions, obsessions. All of these things take away from you your most valuable resource. A philosophical approach to the whole thing would be to be ruthless and making sure that these things don't matter to you. The other thing is putting up your day for review. One of the common threads in every philosopher is the fact that at the end of the day, they'll reflect on what happened. The reason is, unless you reflect on what happened, how are you going to make sure that the mistakes you made today, you don't repeat it the next day? So that's something that we can all probably pick up. It's an easy enough habit to pick up. Reflect on what you did. Say, okay, there are quite a few stupid things I did. Maybe I should not be doing that the next day. The other thing is, do things now. Don't put things off for later. Of course, there are two types of people, the lazy people and the procrastinators. The lazy people just don't want to do it. They just come up with an excuse for not doing it. But a procrastinator wants to do it, but puts it off. And that's probably many of us. But while we are postponing, remember, our life is speeding by, as Seneca said. So he said, he had given this, said, putting things off is the biggest waste of life. Snatches away each day as it comes and denies us the present by promising the future. You got to understand that the present, we know, the past, we know what happened. The present is impermanent and the future is uncertain. Somebody who says, okay, I'm going to work really hard till I'm 60 years old, and then after I'm going to relax. Who knows what's going to happen after you're 60 years old? Who knows if you'll be alive? Who knows if you'll be healthy enough to do anything? You don't know. You want to make sure that whatever you want to do, you do it now. Don't put away your rewards for later. Do it now. Very close friend of mine, doctor, passed away recently, unfortunately, because of COVID. He used to always say this. Yeah, Reddy, I want to take off, man. I want to sit back. I want to just not do anything. I want to, just relax. Let's all go to some place and live together. And he's worked hard all his life. Brilliant person, worked hard all his life. What the hell happened to his future? It's gone. It never came. So whatever you want to do, make sure you do it now. Also, don't spend too much time preparing for tomorrow. Live in the moment. Do not delay your happiness. Say, yes, this is not an all or none thing. It's not like, I don't, whatever money I have, I'll spend it right now and I will not save for the future. It's not that, but don't deny too many things. Don't deny things that you can do for yourself. Don't let the present slip away because you're preparing for the future. Make all your long-term rewards immediate. Don't just wait for, okay, I will only do it later. I'll work hard now and then I'll start living later. No, don't do that. So this is a very philosophical approach to things. So he says, even when you have time off, make sure that there is something valuable in that. He says, leisure without study is death. I would have thought the other way around, study without leisure is death. But anyway, he says leisure. So he says, you work hard, you have a vacation and you're somewhere and you're just lying down doing nothing. He says, don't just not do anything. Look around you, take the world and have a better understanding of the place around you, of yourself in the universe. He says the purpose of life should not be to just run out the clock, because that is not life and that is not freedom either. So again, even when you have time off, don't just completely waste it, is what he's saying. So just to sum up, Seneca's words are a powerful reminder that time is our most valuable non-renewable resource. And even though we know that our time, we don't know how much time we have. We're not sure how much time we have, but we surely know it's limited. It is not unlimited. It is a limited amount of time. So what we need to do is that we need to get off this in a hamster wheel of living our life and doing our work and trying to be successful and everything, and live each day as if it would be a last day. If I have only one day to live, what am I going to do? I'm going to be nice to my family. I'm going to be doing something that's meaningful for me. I'll call up a friend of mine that I've not spoken to in 1 year. I will do all these things that are really important to me. It is not whether I've got a big house or bought a big car, or I went and had my food in a nice big hotel. Those are not going to be the things that you want to do. You want to do things that are meaningful for you. So make sure that you do it. As he wrote in his most famous book on the shortness of life, he said, a whole lifetime is needed to learn how to live, and a whole lifetime is needed to learn how to die. So I'm going to end by quoting a much recent philosopher, Bertrand Russell, a British author and Nobel laureate, who said, the time you enjoy wasting is not wasted time. Let's say you want to spend time with your friends, or you want to spend time with your family, even if you're not doing anything productive, that is absolutely not wasted time. But the time that you spent working longer than you should is certainly wasted time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Sujay, for a wonderful perspective. It is entirely 180-degree different perspective from the present time management gurus. And I really congratulate you also for your wonderful imposition on the subject. Both of you have done excellently well, and my respected senior Dr. Aravinda Mukherjee also has given wonderful insight at the beginning. I want to take this opportunity to thank him once again and request him to start the question-answer proceedings, please. Professor Aravinda, please.
Thank you, Dr. Hansel, Dr. Sujay, for giving these excellent talks. It is a session of learning for me, at least. I can tell you, I learned many new things. There are lots of questions, but I think there are some duplications. So I have tried to group these questions so that there is no repetition. So those questions which are posted, that we will take first. Then anybody wants to comment or put more questions, we can take it. So some of the doctors attending, they put a question. As usual, this is the COVID time. So their question is post-COVID mental illness. How to counter this? Is it by counseling? It is by drugs? And also they have questioned how to counsel or overcome this post-COVID mental illness for a doctor and for a patient. So mainly post-COVID mental illness, how doctors can overcome that, and how the patients can overcome that. Dr. Hansraj, if you
post-COVID mental illnesses are no different illnesses. Basically it's a kind of a anxiety phenomena or a depressive illnesses which is going to come up post-COVID. And what we need to do is we need to find out the severity of those kind of cases. If it's a simple emotional reaction or a kind of anxiety where they can be counseled, then the CBT would be the best treatment, that is cognitive behavior therapy, by which we teach them to alter the way they think and the way they perceive the thing, and probably by doing so they would understand, and their anxiety or a depressive feeling will go down. But there are people who would definitely have a family history of anxiety or depression or such kind of mental illnesses, those who have a past history of mental illnesses and they got relapsed because of this COVID. In those kind of cases, I think the only counseling or only therapy would not work. We need to give them a chemical support as well. So they need a medicine. But in nutshell, it is no different than the usual management of those disorders.
Also, we are seeing a lot of PTSD in the doctors. This after I would say my son is a doctor in here in New York, and he is an ICU in charge. In April, it was really bad. So the scenario was like they were in their ICU in place of 30 beds, there were 130 patients, and there was no. Once a patient is admitted, they have no communication with their relatives. They cannot see, relatives cannot come. Only 5 minutes they can talk over the FaceTime phone. And there were body bags which was lined in the refrigerated cars just down. So that produced a lot of PTSD among the frontline workers, the doctors, nurses. So do you have any advice that how these people can behave in a better way? Because many of his colleagues went into deep depression, stress disorder, and one of them committed suicide also.
See, this is the worst thing which we are facing, because we are overworked, and people who continuously work under the stressful environment, or let's say a kind of a negative environment, or a kind of environment where you see the futility of the life, you become a philosophically motivated into that, and you see the futility of life. And as Dr. Subramaniam told one incident, that the person who has a planned after the retirement, or who has planned after 60 years and who died in the COVID, so the tomorrow which he has planned has never come. So in such kind of situation, definitely you would get mentally disturbed. So I think we should detoxify ourselves on those emotional ground. And for that detoxification, either we have to take a break, where we can go away from the medicines and illness and other thing, and you have a entirely a new thing which you must be doing for some time. Or even taking up a vipassana course is also one of the very important, where we can find the deeper meaning of life, and the things which comes in the life, and what is the meaning behind that. So I think we need a time to detoxify ourselves. When you are loaded with the too much of negative emotions, too much of negative environmental inputs, and everything around you is such a negative condition, then we need to take break. The only question is whether we will be able to take or not, because most of the people who are working in ICU, they overwork themselves, and probably that is the reason why we face PTSD.
Thank you. Dr. Shah, any comment, or Dr. Sujay? How to reduce this stress, PTSD, depression among the many? I'm mainly concerned with the frontline health workers, the nurses, doctors.
Well, Dr. Sujay, would you please comment first? Then I may.
What I think is this is a consequence of the situation that we are in, sir, and it has to be handled like how we would handle any regular patient with these kind of problems. They need to be screened. They need to be picked up early. They need to be handled as they would be handled in any normal situation. It is just that, I mean, the difficult times that we are living in now will ensure that the number of patients having these problems are far more than what they used to be, and because as doctors we are exposed to a whole lot more stress, more of us are going to show symptoms, and they need to be picked up and they need to be handled. So like how it is. How we would treat these people when we used to pick them up on a normal regular basis. So we have to do that, and they all need to be handled and helped. So
I do agree, but my point is that there are two aspects of looking at it. One is the treatment aspect, as you said, you pick up and treat and all those things. But the other most fundamental thing is we need to change the medical educational systems, because we are only taught what is in the books, and the overall perspective of life requires to be properly taught to all medical students, right from their shift in attitude to counseling when they join the medical course, and then right from ethics to time management to philosophical perspective of life. So many things required to be added, right from first MBBS till they become doctors. So otherwise, as I told in the initial prelude only, there are lots of stressor to a doctor's life, and everybody wants to be famous and rich is another problem. And the negativity which surrounds us all the time. People are talking only negative in front of us. So we are the most vulnerable people. And just by picking up and treating would not help. In a long term, we have to make a strategy to build a strong general character, general knowledgeable human being out of a doctor, and that requires a lot of reform. I think philosophy and morality, ethics, and self-management, and I think self-hypnosis, meditation, all these things should be part of the curriculum. I don't know how to implement that, but myself and Dr. Khalilkar are planning to write something on it and create some wholesome model. I wish Dr. Aravinda comments on this a little.
Thank you. Thank you for this information. Before I leave on this topic, I think in this, apart from this individual countering the stress, I think society in general has got a bigger role to play. So we should also entrust the society that they have their commitments done to these people, the sufferers, the healthcare workers, so that they are get boost from this. So thank you for this. I'll move on to the next question. And these are two persons, two doctors, who wanted to know the relation between psychiatric illness and the general physiological immunity. Is there any relation between psychiatric illness and immunity? I think Dr. Hansel.
I think psychiatric illness has nothing to do with the physiological immunity, but obviously, as I described in a very nutshell, that psychological immunity is capacity to fight back, and when you lack into that capacity, definitely you become more prone to a kind of a neurotic illnesses and even mental breakup, where you can be developing a schizophrenia and lot many other illnesses. And when there is a genetic loading for those disorder, then it is more likely that you would break into that mental illnesses. So definitely it has a relationship with psychological immunity.
Any further comment? Or there was another question which I also don't understand, whether the psychological immunity is parasitic or symbiotic. I think either Dr. Sujay or Dr. Hansraj.
I think obviously it is a symbiotic. See, it acts in a symbiosis. It's not a kind of a dependence, or it's not a kind of a relationship where one thing is exploiting the other thing. So I think it is a symbiotic.
So if only Dr. Sujay, you agree?
Yes, sir, I do, sir.
Okay. So I think these are the groups of questions predominantly we had. There one more question, the time management after the age of 60. I think you have already covered this aspect, so we need not go into that. So with this, I think if Dr. Shah, you have any comment or?
No, sir, I think this is fine. And if we go to the routine chronological time, we are now exceeding that 1:30. So possibly, but that was surely a Kiro time. We enjoyed theory, practical aspects, and it was a really eye-opener in many aspects. As Dr. Aravinda also said, I also feel that I also am able to pick up a few things for me. There was some question on meditation also, but it's a long story. And Chintan and me were thinking of to take one of the sessions on meditation, maybe next or the other one. So all of you are requested to join, keep on logging for our next programs. As I said, we had lots of webinars in this corona time, and many of them were regarding drugs and some rare genetic disorders or some unusual presentation of a rare disease, etc., which to my mind beyond a certain point was less meaningful. So I thought of designing this kind of webinar series, and we termed that life is larger than medicine. And I'm sure as doctors, these are very, very, very important aspects to be discussed over and over again. And we would also like to have your feedbacks on this kind of webinars, as well as if you have any topics in your mind, or if you heard any excellent speaker and you want to suggest, you please do write back to us. We will be happy to consider that. With all these things, I once again am very grateful to Professor Arbinda, who is right now in the time zone where it should be around 12 o'clock midnight.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank
12.
you very much, sir. And
Thank
sir,
you,
you
sir.
have
I
been very
enjoyed.
kind.
Thank you for inviting. I
Yeah,
enjoyed this session really
yeah,
and learned also.
yeah.
Thank you.
And he is our past president of Indian Academy of Neurology, but he is so graceful and kind that always he supports my all activities. I once again take opportunity to thank Dr. Hansal Bachech and Dr. Sujal Subramanian. We wish we could have more time to discuss all these things, but we will bounce back on this. And I thank I think Torrent team, but Mr. Bhattacharya, Chintan, Yadav, and the whole team for making this possible, because this was a new concept and I wasn't sure how it would be taken up, but I can see that between 500 to 1500 delegates log in every time we have this webinar. So I'm so much thankful to them also. I'm particularly thankful to delegates who always give encouragement to our discussions. So with that, I want to hand over to the organizers from the company. And I am again so grateful to all of you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Happy Sunday
Thank you,
and
sir.
happy New Year that is coming with a lot of hopes. And I wish safe and healthy life for you and your families and friends. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank you, sir. Sir, it is indeed a matter of pride to have all the eminent, neurologists. I can say Sudesha and Arbinda sir means I can vouch that the entire neurology fraternity is here, and psychiatrist Dr. Bachej and Dr. Sujay Subramaniam. So, having such eminent panelists from across the country, it gives us a great, matter of pride that we have with us. And I think the objective of arriving to this life larger than medicine is being achieved. Because this is where many of the participants have also understood that such subjects are missing in the curriculum in the academic part. So I think this can be a part of the academia, and I on behalf of Torrent express my immense gratitude for all the participant panelists, everyone for taking time out of their busy schedule, because this is the time, as Sujay sir told, is for the family Sunday time. But it is great that we are coming here, and I hope the objective of this meeting is being achieved. And I thank one and all. I wish everyone a happy New Year in advance. Wishing you a happy, healthy, and a peaceful New Year ahead. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to meeting you the January, the 4th or the last Sunday, with another interesting topic on this aspect, and look forward to having you all. So thank you, one and all, and
Thank you. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.